Yeah. Hello, everyone. We apologize for a slight delay. We had some technical hiccups in the system, but now we are finally very glad to start our last webinar. We cannot even believe it. Our last webinar from our exclusive Finance and Business English webinar series. And I'm very happy to represent to you for the last time our wonderful teacher, Dr. Charles Hall, from Al Faisal University, Al Riyadh, from Saudi Arabia. And today he's going to speak about the language of stocks. So, dear Charles, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophia. It's such a pleasure to be here, but it's so sad that it's also already the last episode, the episode of our little adventure. I've enjoyed working with everyone so much. And so let's go right ahead. Now, remember, as Sophia has explained to you, you can sign up at vivox.app. That's not an app, just a web page, and put in that ID, and on your phone, you'll be able to vote with us too. So, taking stock. This is actually a very good expression in the United States that means has nothing to do with the stock market. It used to have something to do with actual inventory, but today it just means let's look and see what's going on. Let's take stock of our situation. But today we're going to literally be taking stocks. We're going to be talking about stocks, also known as shares, and the stock market. Well, of course, I want to thank Sophia for being a wonderful, wonderful host and also a great co-presenter. She's made this so wonderful for me and so easy. And of course, her great assistant, Raman. I want to thank him very much too. And this is all possible because of the efforts of Jennifer Euler, who is Euler, I guess in English. She is the Regional English Language Officer for Russia. And we thank her very much for making this possible. So we're going to begin with a poll. When you think of the word stock market, which of these do you think of first? Money, fraud, mysterious, complicated. Oh, I'd like to try it. So vote. Let's see what you think.
Yes.
What do you think of?
And we would like to remind that you should go to vivox.app, or you can sign vivox.com, and you can see whenever you try to vote in the top right corner the ID number. It's 113-137-401. We are putting it also into the comments, and you're very welcome to try it. So. Or you can also enter it from the link that we've sent you. So you're very welcome to go through the link and write also the number. So over there, this is what I'm trying to do now, trying to look into 3 different screens at once. So, it's quite horrible.
You're doing so much better than I am. I barely have one screen and I can barely figure out. I also want to thank everybody who showed up tonight because I know it's so close to the holidays and I know you're so busy this time of the year. I know I just put the semester to bed, as we say, turned in my final grades and ran to the airport to come to Berlin to get away from all of that. Okay, let's see what our friends say. Okay, now before we ask, I always want to ask Sophia. Sophia, what do you think of when you first hear that term?
Complicated.
And it is indeed, it's complicated. So tonight, we're not going to go into great depth. Oh, Sophia, these are nice capitalists.
Yes, I like it very much.
Exactly. Growing up in the United States, the stock market for me was mysterious. I never understood how it worked. So as I grew older and learned, I was thinking, oh, that's really complicated. Then I found out that there was a lot of fraud, but you could also make a lot of money. And I said, oh, I want to try that. So I have to warn you, I've played the stock market, which is the term we use, with just a few dollars that I could lose. And I did, I lost them. I was horrible at playing the stock market, but that doesn't matter. And that's because, as one of our first presidents said, with great risk comes great reward. So Thomas Jefferson knew, he wasn't talking about the stock market, about life in general, but that's exactly what the stock market is. You put money in knowing that you could lose every single penny, or you could make millions of dollars. Well, what is a stock company? Well, a stock company or a share, and that's actually a better word, a share. So somebody says, I have an idea, but I need some more money. So they do an initial public offering, which means they used to be a private company, but they need a lot of money. So they do this IPO and they sell stock. And a share is simply you lend them some money. You don't lend them some money. You give them some money in expectation that they're going to make lots more money, and then they're going to be able to give you not only your money back, but more money in the form of a dividend. Okay. Well, the very first stock company that we know about was the Dutch East Indies Company in 1602. This is when the Dutch decided they were going to take over Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, which, for a long, long time was a Dutch colony. So they sent people off to Indonesia and other places in Southeast Asia, and people in in the Netherlands, gave them money and said, here, we know you're going to make a lot of money. So please let me buy a share of the company. And when you guys make a lot of money, I'll get my share out of it. Well, it turns out later the Dutch East India Company went bankrupt. Oh, well, too bad. Okay. So what do stock companies have to do? It depends on the country. But in the United States, for example, a stock company must have an annual stockholders meeting. Now, here's something you might not know. Not everybody who owns stock in a company gets to attend the stockholders meeting. There are a couple of different types of stocks that we'll talk about, but the most common is called common shares, and they have voting rights. And sometimes people buy common shares just to cause problems at the business meeting. Okay, so it's always fun, but most of the time it's really boring and it's just a big, do you know the English expression snooze fest?
No.
No, snooze fest, snooze means a little nap.
Yeah.
So a snooze fest is, it puts you right to sleep. Okay, so there's a board of directors. They are voted on by the stockholders. And these are the shareholders, stockholders, shareholders, all the same. But if you don't want to go and you can't be bothered, you can assign your voting rights to someone who's called legally a proxy. A proxy. He or she votes for you. And in fact, most people just sign their votes over to the board of directors proxy and don't show up. Because as I said, most of the time, the meeting is just boring, but sometimes it's fun. Well, where did the stock market come from? People have been exchanging things since time immemorial. I just have this picture in my mind of a Neanderthal person running into a Homo sapien and wanting to exchange a tiger skin for some vegetables or something. And they would just meet in the middle and they just talk and exchange everything. Well, the first official stock market was in Brussels, in Bruges, which is today in Belgium. And this is a picture of the square where it is thought, where the people used to meet. These people would travel from all over the world, not over the world, all over Europe, but that was the world at the time for us. And they would come here because this was a great place. It was where two places ran together. The Hanseatic League from northern Germany and the Italians from the south. And they would stay in the third house from the left. You can't really see it, but right at the top, there it says Domus Genii, and there's a stork on a nest there. Well, that was a family that owned that, and they were the Van der Börse. And it didn't mean from the stock, no, that was their name. Mm-hmm. And it is thought, this is one of the explanations, that that's where the term bourse or stock market came from. Okay, because they met there in front of that house. So, what do you do at a stock market? You buy and you sell, you trade. And at first, they were open air markets. People just met in a really nice square and they handled everything that way. Well, of course, later it got much more formalized. Well, these were started about 1400. So we've had stock markets for over 600 years. But as I said, people have been exchanging for a lot longer than that. Well, and this was the family, Van der Börse. But again, this doesn't mean stock market. This was just their name, and it came to mean a Börse. But also, it might come from, and this makes more sense to me actually in the long run, it might come from the Greek word that goes into Latin, that goes into Old French, that goes into Mormon French, which is bursa. And I think you probably have a word like that in Russia. Does it mean scholarship in Russian?
No, I'm not aware, but
okay,
no,
good. It does in many,
no.
It does in many European languages. But in English, we have the word bursar, a person who you pay things to because he puts it in his purse. So bourse and purse are historically the same word.
Oh my
so that
goodness.
Makes more sense
Yes.
to me.
And Charles, I think
Yes.
I'm already at the end of our semester. That's why I'm losing a little bit my head. And my colleagues are writing to me, especially Yelena, Victoria, and Alex, and they have got several options. And actually, they're absolutely right, because we do have actually a word which is birja. And it means exactly what you mean, because I'm sitting a little bit with open eyes and I think I'm losing myself a little bit. And also, we have a nut, so it's very close to birja. Thank you very much, Yelena Vyushkina, because it's my colleague from Saratov. She's a teacher and a professor, Saratov State Legal Academy. And also, we have some options, Victoria Kozlovskaya, right there. Actually, bursa means also old-fashioned for college. So very old-fashioned. Yes, it might mean a college. Yeah. So some people actually studied in Bursa. So thank you very much, our participants. We are so happy to get some feedback and answering the questions. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I've been to Saratov. Very nice city, beautiful. So this is where it started. But of course, everybody else uses the word Bursa in Europe, except of course in English. We use the word stock market. Officially, we have the word bourse in English, but we don't use it. Well, just to take things outside the law for a moment, you all know a famous trader on the Bruges Stock Exchange. Well, it wasn't a stock exchange yet, on the Bourse. You all know this picture by Jan van Eyck, this rather pregnant woman getting married. And the man there is Arnolfini. He's an Italian merchant who stayed in the inn that I showed you from Den Bosch. And so this sort of brings us all the way back. I think this is from 1434. So again, he's an Italian merchant who traveled to Bruges, lived there, obviously had a little bit of fun with some people, and then got married. Okay, so what do you do in the stock market? Well, obviously you buy and you sell. Now, the fancy word for selling is ask. And in English, in regular English, we still have that with the asking price. When someone says the asking price, they are inviting you to bargain. So the asking price is 3,000. And that means it's a sort of a coded way to say, then make me an offer and we'll see what happens. The opposite is to bid. This is what I'm willing to pay for a stock. And so the difference has to be worked out. And so people sell their stocks with the asking price, and people offer to buy stocks with the bid. Well, sometimes things don't go well. And I'm a victim of this too, okay? In 1987, on a Black Monday, the stock market fell by 20%. Yep. I had my retirement fund in stocks.
Oh
We'll learn
no.
later what kind. And in one day, I lost not 20, but 30% of my retirement income. I wasn't real happy. Okay.
Of
And look
course.
at this. Here's a graph from Dow Jones. Went down 20%. Whoa, it looks like a somebody falling off the cliff. And that's exactly what happened. So the stock market is composed of thousands of stocks, and each one has an abbreviation, and each one has a asking price, a bidding price, and lots of other information that you can get from the Dow Jones. But let's ask the next question. Well, you all know that the United States, you probably know, that the New York Stock Exchange is the largest, most important stock market in the world by a lot. But where do you think the second largest stock market exchange is in terms of money, not size? Where do you think the second largest stock market in the world is? France, UK, Japan, China, Germany, or Australia? That's supposed to be Australia.
That's okay. We
I sort of
started
like
with some
Australia.
technical issues, so we kind of go on. That's fine. We're all humans. So,
I'll blame it on the computer.
yes.
So, yes, exactly. Where do you think the next large? Okay, we're almost ready. Are you getting ready to answer, Sophia?
You know, over these almost 3 months, well, yes. So I have learned one thing. So when you think about the largest, the biggest in terms of money, go for China.
Oh, how did you know that?
This is what I learned during this webinars with you, that
That's
China is a big player.
it's so astonishing. It's really astonishing because how long has China been open for business? Not that long, during my lifetime. As we say in English, Nixon had to go to China, which means even bizarre people can do very good things if they have to. So Nixon, the former president who resigned, went to China and opened it up. So yes, China. And oh, you look at that. Nobody thought Germany, and nobody thought Australia. Well, it's sort of not. I really, before I, if I had just been thinking about it, of course I would have said China, but then I would have checked. But you were right. So China is the world's second largest stock market, and that's in Shanghai. Okay. Well, we talked about Dow Jones, and people talk about Dow Jones all the time. So who is this Dow Jones? Well, first of all, it's not Dow Jones. It's two different people, Mr. Dow and Mr. Jones. And at the end of the 19th century, they put together an index of 30 important blue chip companies on the New York Stock Exchange. An index is not one stock, but sort of like a basket of stocks so that you can get an overall view of the market. So they put together 30. Well, many people say the Dow Jones Index isn't that reflective of the bigger market today. So there are many more markets. In fact, here we have three of the other very famous, the S&P 500, 500 companies, or NASDAQ Composite with almost 3,000 companies. And all of their information is averaged together. And that gives us a much better picture of what's happening on the market. Well, what can happen on the market? Well, when we say the market, we mean the stock market. The average price can go up and the average price can go down like it did on Black Monday by 20%. But for the individual, is up always better? You would think so, but we'll see in a later slide why maybe that's not always the case. Okay, so New York Stock Exchange. Has anybody ever been to the New York Stock Exchange in New York? It's really sort of interesting.
Me not, but let's ask because I think
Yeah.
we might have someone
Oh,
from
I'm
our
sure.
viewers
If you've been
because
to New York, you might have gone to Wall Street. I know a lot of Russians go near there because there's a really huge, great store there. And people buy lots of designer clothes there at good prices.
yes, we actually have some people, Tatiana,
Oh,
Yelena, who are
excellent.
saying that some of have been actually on New York Stock Exchange, at New York Stock Exchange. Someone has been on Wall Street.
Wow,
So
very nice, very
someone
nice.
has
Well,
visited in 2000. So
oh,
everyone is, yes.
nice. Well, of course, it's changed over the time, and now it's very electronic, but it's still unbelievably important. Well, maybe when you think of Wall Street, you think of this funny, horrible, sad, true life movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. And this was about a stockbroker, that's the man who buys and sells stock for you, who cheated his way into prison, made millions of dollars cheating people and selling them light, and then came back out, wrote a bestseller, and now he makes a lot of money giving presentations on how to sell things as a convicted felon. I love it. And Leonardo was, let's see, he was nominated for Academy Award, but he didn't win it. Well, Wall Street actually is a Dutch word because remember before New York was New York, it used to be New
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. And if you remember, we talked about the fact that the first share company was Dutch. The first stock market was in what's now Belgium, but really what's Dutch. Okay. So the Dutch started Wall Street, and it used to be called Waalstraat. Waalstraat can mean many things. It all depends, but it probably means Wallon, the French speakers of Belgium, who lived on that street when it was New Amsterdam. Or it could be just a misspelling of literally wall, which wouldn't have two A's because there was a wall. But it has a long history and not always a very honorable history. For a while, the New York slave market was on Wall Street until it became illegal for slaves in New York. But now it's symbolic for all the evils of the world. Just kidding. Okay. But with a movie like The Wolf of Wall Street, that sort of reinforces the stereotype of what it's like. Okay. And that, of course, is the New York Stock Exchange. Very, very famous, very, very influential. There is a ceremony every day when a bell is rung, still an old-fashioned big bell, and is an honor to be invited to ring the bell. And it's even filmed and everything. So for many people, it's the highlight of their life to ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Well, now we have another poll. I bet most of the people know this. Well, when we look at indices, and there are many like Dow Jones, we can see a general trend in the market. Do you happen to know the term that means the market is going up? Everybody's making money. What do you think is the term for the market is making money?
And while we
Do
are
we have any
waiting,
questions while we're looking for
yes,
them?
actually, we have got two questions we
Good.
have received. So the first question is a general one, and this is that we very often get. Why shares are called stocks in American language?
That is really good. In most languages, it's something like action. What
Aktie
is it
in Russian.
Aktie, right, exactly, which makes more sense. That's sort of the European word for, well, obviously, action. You take action in the company. But in the United States, stock refers to it didn't mean stock like as in stock market at first. It simply meant you have a share of something. I have stock in that building. You put something in it. You know the word stock, like to stock the shelves, to put cans on the shelf. Now they're there. So when you put money in a company, you are putting stock in the company. So it's a convoluted way. It's funny because the first term I think of is not shares, but stocks. And so that's the real term. Okay. So that's not a very very satisfactory answer. It's not like in 1952 someone said, let's just call them stocks. But it's basically, but they are identical. Stocks and shares are identical.
So shareholders and stockholders is basically
Right,
the same
shareholders
term. It doesn't matter who is. Okay.
Any other?
Yes, we
Let's
do
see,
have.
what did you
Yeah, we have one more question, but I can ask it later on. So I can
Look
ask
at
it
this,
later
Sophia.
on.
Everybody knew.
Yeah. Well, remember this wonderful picture of this sculpture on the Wall Street about the.
Oh, that's
about the
right.
bull.
You guys all know that, don't you? Exactly.
watch the
What's the other
movies.
question we have, Sophia?
The question was, what's the difference between a legal representative and the proxy in terms of the scope of authority? Because a lot of
Okay.
people confuse these two words and they try to
Good.
call some legal representative a proxy. So
No. You could, in informal English, say, he's my proxy. Okay. But proxy almost always refers to voting and only voting. This was, for example, in the government in the United States during COVID, there was a little bit of controversy on whether proxy votes were allowed. So it's almost always proxy vote. Whereas a legal representative, who often has some form of legal control, they can do anything. So just think of proxy as only for votes officially.
and they do not express their own opinion. They express the opinion of the person who appointed them.
Right.
And
in
also,
theory.
yes, we have some our participants who also say that proxy is also a document that appoints a proxy.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so-
And you do have to, you do. So, for example, if you're the proxy at a shareholder meeting, you have to provide written legal documentation that you have a right to vote for that person.
Okay.
What often happens is organizations that want to cause problems will gather up lots of proxy votes from very, very small shareholders so that they can vote en bloc at a shareholder meeting.
Okay.
So that can be a lot of fun.
Corporate games. Yes. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for the
exactly,
explanation.
right.
Yes,
Well,
super.
As you can see, everybody knew that the bull market, as opposed to, of course, number 3, the bear market. Right. Now, how did this come? Well, this is another one of those. We wish somebody had written it down when they first wrote it. But during the medieval period, there used to be something called bull and bear baiting, where they would put a bull and a bear together in a pit, and people would love to watch it. This was a common sport before the animal rights activists came in.
PETA.
I'm a vegan, so for me this is horrible. But so it is thought. And if you notice, the bull lifts its head up, while as the bear always goes down. So maybe, but who knows? But anyway, that's where we are today. Okay. There's also a thing about, there used to be people who would, quote unquote, sell bear skins before they killed the bear. And so sometimes people didn't have the bears they promised, and then they got in trouble. Maybe you know the other English expression, don't count your chickens.
Yes. Until the autumn comes or something like this. Yes.
Don't count your chickens until they hatch.
Yes.
That's always a strange
Yes.
word, hatch. Do you have something like that in Russian?
We have the same. We have the same, but that's why I said in autumn. So because we say until the autumn comes, because the autumn is if I'm not mistaken, is the time when it's the ripening and it's the harvest and everything. So until the harvest comes, you do not count your profit, if I may say so.
Right. Don't count your profits until it's all harvested. Exactly. Right. Exactly. My parents have chickens, but they're down to one because a big, beautiful hawk came down and took a couple of them off.
Oh my.
Florida's a little wild. Okay. So we have a bull market and a bear market, up and down. All right. Well, now, what can you do with shares? Look at this picture. This is just one of the boards at the New York Stock Exchange. And there are so many companies, thousands, and each one of those is being kept up. Of course, today with electronics and computers, it's a whole lot easier. In fact, now there are computers that buy and sell stocks, and that can cause some big, big problems. So, what can you do with a stock? What can you do with a share? Well, obviously, buy the asking price, bid the what I would pay to buy it, but maybe you just want to get rid of all your stocks and you cash out. That's the term, to cash out. The problem is because it's a stock and not anything real, there has to be somebody who wants to buy your stock. So if you happen to own stock in a company that's basically collapsed, you may be stuck with it. So there's no guarantee that you can sell your stocks. That's different from certain things. Okay. Well, this is a picture of the old fashioned when, gee, did you notice something about all those men? Oops, I said it. It's all men. For a long time, all stockbrokers were men. That's no longer true today. But this was the pit where people literally stood around and waved and yelled at each other. And it must have been a nightmare. I can imagine why people had heart attacks all the time. And there are different types of orders you can give your stockbroker. A market order means sell it right now. Right now, I'm happy right now. Please go, please buy or sell right now. Okay, I think it's a good price, or it's the price I want. So go and sell my stocks or buy my stocks right now. On the other hand, you might have a buy limit order. Okay, a limit order. Don't spend more than $12 per share. If it's $13, don't buy it. If it's under $12, buy it. So this is the maximum that you would pay for share. This protects your money. So you call up your broker and you say, hey, I'm interested in buying 100 shares of X, but I don't want to spend more than $7. Well, that's nothing of a stock. Okay, I don't want to spend more than $57. And he goes, okay, so we'll do a limit order for 57. And when he tries to buy stocks, if they're more than 57, he doesn't buy them. The opposite, of course, would be a sell limit order, when there is a minimum. Okay, don't sell my stocks unless they've reached $57. It looks like they're going up, but hold on to it. You know, if it's 55, don't sell it. But when it hits 57, sell it. Now, why would you do that? Well, because you think that it might go back down. So it's 57 today, but maybe overnight, many things happen. And when it opens back up the next morning, it might be 53. Eek. You will have lost money. So knowing a sell order depends on your analysis of a stock. Has it reached its peak? That's when you sell. So you always hear the axiom, buy low, sell high. Mm-hmm. So buy stock when it's really cheap and sell stock when it's really high, expensive. That makes perfect sense.
And it sounds wonderful and perfect.
I know. Of course, it means you have to know a lot of information. Yes. And again, who can't do that? I can't. Yeah. I can talk a lot about it, but I simply can't do it. Have you ever played with stocks, Sophia?
Yes, but it was many, many years ago when I was pregnant with my first son, and I was already on maternity leave, because in Russia you go on maternity leave when you're 7 months pregnant. So I had some time before the birth of my child, and I have some small money. And there was nothing much to do, and I was playing at the stock market. Actually managed to earn some money, but I was getting crazy. So it was, and I was just, pushing the button. Oh, some indexes are going up. Okay, press. So it was like totally out of the blue. But one of my sons, when he was at the age of 9, he started to invest his money into shares, into stocks, his pocket money. Yes, I know, because he loves money, and he was told that, if you just keep the money, it's like the inflation will eat them, but you can invest them. And whenever he gets the pocket money, he gives them and say, can you please put it into my investments? He's now 12, and he managed to get quite a sum. I know it sounds amazing, but I think he lost a lot over this year. I'm not asking him.
No. But
No.
maybe someday he'll be able to take care of you and buy you that
yes, but
big
actually,
mansion.
when I was 9 years old, so I couldn't, even now I don't do this, but it's modern kids, so.
That's spectacular. Does he think he wants to study finance or banking or be something later?
Or
I mean, at 12,
maybe
who knows?
he loves money, he loves counting, he knows everything about the discounts and so on. He loves Russian Amazon, which is Ozon. He's watching the prices, he puts, the notification. And I like it about him because I'm quite sure he will be okay when he grows up.
That's spectacular.
Yes.
Can I get some advice from him?
Well, he just gives actually money to my husband, and my husband just puts him into, and they decide together because I'm like out of this. I'm out of this, and they kind of enjoy it much. And I like it because my daughter, she spends everything as soon as she gets it. And my eldest son doesn't care much about money. He just puts them together. So they are all very different, and their approaches to money and so different, like we all do. Someone spends, someone invests, so.
And some just don't even know if they have money.
Yes.
That's right. That's wonderful. That is so cute. Good. Well, let's hope he makes a lot of money. And at 12,
yes,
think of how many decades he can make money.
And that's what he plans, because he says, why he does it, because he actually plans to, as soon as he reaches 18, get a mortgage, because I do not allow them to have any cats or dogs. So, and he wants to live separately, specifically so he can get 2 dogs and a cat. That's why he's actually piling up the money. I think it's a wonderful goal.
That is hysterical. That's what I have never heard. My goal for making money is so I can have my own house, so that I can have 2 dogs.
Absolutely.
That is lovely.
Yes.
You're a horrible mother.
I'm horrible. Yes, I'm horrible. Yes. Well, because my husband has an allergy, so I have a nice reason. Yes, but
you have a very good reason.
If he wouldn't have an allergy, I would still figure out something, I think, because with 3 kids and the job, I cannot have a dog.
No, it takes too much effort. Well, unfortunately, we have a picture here of when people basically almost ate their dogs. This is a picture of the stock crash, the Great Depression, when everything fell apart in 1929 across the world. It was a global stock thing. And here you can see people outside the New York Stock Exchange. And I always know this is an older picture because everybody's got a hat on. Now we don't wear hats like that, except maybe a baseball hat. So stop loss. This is, you have certain prices and you see the word loss. You think, oh my God, it always sounds like I'm losing money. Well, this is you actually can protect. Again, it's sort of like that. When it gets to a certain point, sell it because it might go back down. Or the opposite, and this one is sort of strange. If you see a stock that is zooming up into the things, rapidly growing, and you think, oh, that's the next hot stock, then you have to buy it right now because in 2 weeks it's going to be way too expensive to buy. So you put in an order and you say, quick, buy up to this. And that way you can get it before it's too expensive. So those are different things you can do. This is one of my favorite. This is something maybe your son needs to think about. It's called arbitrage. Now, arbitrage is related to the word arbitration, but it's got nothing to do with arbitration. Absolutely nothing to do with arbitration. This is just good old-fashioned economics. You buy something where it's cheap and you sell it where it's expensive, and you get the profit in between. But here you do it with stocks. So, for example, you might buy a stock on one stock exchange that is 17 and sell it on another stock exchange where it's 22. And so you would make $5 for each share you sold. Here it's being shown with ice cream. So if you really could rush the ice cream from the farm into the big city, you could make a lot of money. Very common and very predictable, but we have a fancy name for it, arbitrage. Okay. And that's how we do it. And then we get profit. Yay, we like profit. Unfortunately, with profit comes what? Taxes. Of course you have to pay money in the United States. Of course you have to pay money on your profit. And it depends. There are all sorts of different kinds of profits. So let's just say in general, yes, you have to pay money on profits, and leave it at that. These are called capital gains. For most Americans, the only time they might have capital gains, and again, this is for most middle class, even Americans, is when they sell their house. If you bought your house at $100,000 and you sell it for $200,000, you have capital gains of $100,000, and you would have to pay taxes on that, unless you buy another house very quickly. Okay, so it's complicated. What else can you do with shares? Oh, well, here we have a picture of some money, and somebody's taking their share of it away. The goal of every company is to make a profit. And when companies make profits, they share it with their shareholders. Okay? And so you can collect money. And those are called dividends. That's all it is. It's the profit you get, your share of the profits for each share you have. Sometimes it's very small, sometimes it's very large. It depends on the company, of course. And of course, it's for how many shares. So if there's a dividend of $1 and you own 5 shares, you would get $5. Okay. Well, this is one of the strangest things and the most risky things to do. We actually talked about this last week, 2 weeks ago, but we'll go over it again. And this is selling short. Now, this has two meanings. In regular English, it has nothing to do with stocks. Nothing to do with stocks. Sophia, do you know what it means to sell someone short?
No, actually. I'm thinking now. I thought about actually Googling it, but it would be embarrassing to do it online.
Oh, I do that all the time. Don't look while I Google.
Yes, but I decided
let's ask the audience, does anybody know what it means to sell someone short?
Well, actually, we have Marusia, who is writing that you sell yourself short.
Oh, excellent. That's exact. That's
it means
excellent.
not, and then she adds, thank you very much, Marusia, that's saying that you do not value yourself enough.
That's right. So to sell yourself short, stop selling yourself short. Stop selling yourself short. You're much more talented than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But in the stock market, that's not what it means. Selling short is a very risky, clever way to make money. Remember, we talked about the fact that you can borrow shares from a broker. You pay him a little bit of a fee, and let's say you borrow 1,000 shares at $15 a share. Okay. Then you sell it at 15, and you sell it. And you think, well, why would you do that? You just borrowed the shares. Why are you going to sell them? So $15,000. Then you go have coffee. Wait a few days, and the share falls. Maybe you had some information that was legal information, and you knew that the shares were going to lose value. Now, there are two types of information. There's information that is legal information, and then there is information that you're not allowed to use. That's called insider
Dealing.
trading.
Oh, I thought dealing. So also.
Yes. Is it almost the same in Russian, insider
Yeah,
trading?
insider. Well, we usually say it insider dealing. So, but
Oh, insider dealing. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the same. Okay. Right. And maybe some of you know one of America's most famous do-it-yourself women, Martha Stewart.
Yes, sure.
Everybody knows Martha Stewart, and that's a good thing. I love her. Well, she went to prison for a while.
Yeah. And the
for
fact that
insider
she
trading.
resurrected, sort of, is even more amazing after that. Yes.
That shows what an astonishing woman she is. My favorite thing was when she came out of prison, and of course there were people there to interview her, and she was wearing this really nice knitted cape that she had helped the inmates learn to do, and I think she sold them on her shop. So even in prison, she learned how to make a lot of money. Unbelievable. So you go have coffee, you wait for the shares to go down. Now you buy $1,000 shares at $10. You go back to your friend, the broker, and say, "Hi, I'm returning the 1,000 shares." And now what do you have?
You have profit.
You have $5,000 profit, and you keep the profit. Of course, what else could happen?
You may lose.
Your information was completely wrong, and the share goes up. Uh-oh, and you sold them. Now you have to buy 1,000 shares at $20. You've just lost $5,000 plus the fee for borrowing the money.
Can I have a
selling short
question? Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
You have to buy the same shares, or you can buy some other shares?
No. In theory, you have to return exactly the same shares.
That's the idea.
Right. So that's why it's really risky. You literally have to have a really good idea that those shares are going to lose value, or you can't make any money. And of course, it has to be enough so that you can make a little bit of money. Remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about someone who did this.
Yes.
And he did it not with stocks, but with currency. And he broke the Bank of England. Yes, right, exactly. By selling short. He borrowed billions, sold it, bought it back when it was not nearly as much, and made a lot of money, made the most money ever in one day, practically. Okay. Well, what about your level of risk? This is called risk tolerance. Now, you know the old-fashioned tortoise and the hare. Okay.
Oh, I hate it so much because I have been explained it so many times. I still don't get it. I'm not a...
Oh, okay. This is an old Aesop's fable. A fable is a story in which animals stand in for characters or archetypes. And in the original, this is really sort of interesting. In the original, the hare, another word for rabbit, agrees to race the tortoise. Well, now that's stupid. Everybody knows that a hare can go so much faster than a tortoise. So the hare and the tortoise start off, and of course the tortoise plods and plods and plods. He just keeps going. The hare runs circles around the tortoise, goes over, and then he sees a nice tree. And he says, "Oh, I think I'll take a nap here." And he falls asleep. In the meantime, what is the tortoise doing? Slow, 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 slow. The hare wakes up just in time to see the tortoise cross the finish line. So, this is two different types of personalities. The one who carries on slow, slow, we say slow but steady, or the other, make a quick buck. Okay, and remember, buck is the informal word for an American dollar. Okay, now, what's interesting about this particular version, this is by Toni Morrison, who is a Nobel Prize winning author, who's unfortunately dead now, who wrote The Bluest Eye and many other really beloved, many other unbelievably beautiful books. And she wrote this with her son, and it's very modern. In this version, the hare wins. Yep, the hare wins, as expected. But the tortoise is very happy because he's made a new friend.
Oh, that's very modern.
Yeah, it's so modern. I love it. It's just surreal. Okay, so, well, let's go back to this. What are you? What do you think you are, Sophia? Are you a tortoise or a hare?
Oh, it depends. Sometimes I'm this, sometimes I'm a tortoise, sometimes I'm the hare. So I'm very versatile.
Of course, it all depends, doesn't
It
it?
all depends on the situation, on what I'm doing. So I tend to be more of a hare.
I
So,
thought so, right,
yeah.
exactly. I am basically a hare, but I'm really
Sometimes
getting
I'm
old.
so slow.
Yeah, exactly. And this has to do with risk because there are different types of stocks. Okay. When you buy a stock or a share, you take a share in the risk, which may give you profit. You share in the profit, but you also share in the loss. It's interesting that this is actually very similar to Islamic finances. In Islam and in Christianity for hundreds of years, you could not charge interest. And that's still the case today. Well, you would think, how can you have a bank if you can't
Yeah.
charge, if you can't pay, if you can't charge interest? Well, they've worked it out. Basically, you basically share everything in terms of the legal sense, not in the sense like you get to borrow it. So an Islamic bank actually buys a share of the risk in the house that you want to buy. So it's similar. It's not the same, of course, but it's similar in that idea that everybody shares the risks and the profits. Okay. Well, there are different types of shares. When you think of share, the word the word we mean is common shares. You think, oh, that sounds horrible. Common share. No, it's just a type. It's the most common form. And this is the one, it's common share, is the one where you can go to the shareholders meeting and vote, or your proxy can vote for you. On the other hand, and I always found this very confusing, there's another type of share called preferred. You can't vote. So I've never really understood why it's called preferred when it seems to have less rights. But it's apparently more like a bond than it is a stock in many ways. Now, what if you work for a company that is growing quickly or already has grown and has made lots and lots of money? Most of you, go ahead.
No, no. So I'm like, I remember I have some friends who have been stuck in some company for 5 years because they got this stock option and it kept them there and they didn't want to leave. And in the end, so they couldn't wait and they still didn't receive any profit because the company didn't kind of, as you say, zoom into the sky. So yes.
Yeah, that could be again tortoise and the hare.
Yes.
It can
Yes.
depend, can't it? Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the stock options that's one way to keep people employed. Like you
Yes.
mentioned, they couldn't leave.
They didn't
But
want
it's
to leave
also
because they were still waited and waited and waited and waited. Yes.
right. And their stock still hadn't made any money.
No.
That could be very frustrating. But some of the larger good companies, well, maybe good is an overstatement. Some of the larger companies, I think most everybody knows Walmart,
Yes.
which is the largest shopping thing in the world, basically. And Walmart offers most of its workers a stock option, which is sort of interesting because most people who work at Walmart are blue collar. In other words, blue collar means like sort of a worker rather than a white collar who's clerical or administrative. So I know lots of people in the United States who barely finished high school, who have stocks in Walmart, and they're very proud of it. Okay. My father used to work for Mobil Oil when it was still Mobil, and that was one of the reasons he was able to retire at 55, was because of stock options that he had taken. He lost it all later, but that's a different issue. So here's a picture of an old-fashioned physical stock. This was actually a stock certificate. And you used to actually get pieces like this. Look how pretty that is. And you can see the word common written across it. So it tells you quickly what kind of a stock this is. Well, this was for the American Bicycle Company. I don't think that exists anymore. Okay, so you actually kept these, and you kept these in your safe deposit box because they were sort of like money, not quite as liquid as money, but still worth something. And that's one of the issues we have in stocks, is something called liquidity. How quickly could you turn it into cash? Well, sometimes not so quickly. Remember, just because you want to sell doesn't mean somebody wants to buy. And there have to be both. Okay. Well, what else can you do with stocks? Well, there are some stocks that make a lot of money for you. They're called income stocks. Now, these are often a little risky because you never know. Okay. So I am now post-retirement. I've already retired in the United States, and I'm working after I retired. So I can't afford to invest in income stocks because it's too risky. I don't have time to make up if things go bad. In 1987, when I lost 30% of my retirement account, I had time to make it up, but not today. So it all depends on what's best for you. On the other hand, I do invest in ESG. Got any idea what ESG stands for?
Well,
it's messy. It's not that common. It's not a common term yet.
Yes. So we actually ask our viewers. I think right now it rings some bell. It's somehow related to, but I might be mistaken. I have some friends who are in ESG, but it's kind of, I forgot the word, how to say it. So sustainable something.
Oh, yes.
But I don't remember how to open up this abbreviation. So sustainability.
Right.
So
the S is not for sustainable, but you're absolutely right. You're on the right track. Did anybody write in that they knew what it was?
No, not yet. So, but we remember that we have some delay in.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So we might have
some.
So
ESG, in fact, all of my $7 is invested in ESG stocks, and that stands for environmental protection, social justice, and ethical management practices, which is abbreviated to governances. So environment, social justice, and governance.
Yes. And also,
so
Maria, Maria and Julia have written ecological social governing, ? Or environmental, social, and corporate governance. That's exactly what
Excellent.
you said. Thank you, ladies.
Sophia, you have the best, most intelligent friends.
Yes.
Excellent. And of course, this is a very important issue today. What do you do with your money? There's no such thing as responsible-less money. Maybe you've seen the movie, again, a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, about blood diamonds. It's a typical idea of where does the money come from, how is it spent, and how do you earn it? So today we try, at least many people are trying more, to make sure that the stocks they invest in are protecting the environment, protecting humans, and are ethical in the way they deal with everyone in the world. It can be pretty hard, okay? Well, here's another question. A term for a blue chip, a term for a good old, solid, completely respectable company that's never going to go bankrupt is called a blue chip
Hmm.
stock. Why blue chip company? Why do you think it's called blue chip? You've got banking, casinos from cattle trading, blue cattles, or from the Dutch East Indies company logo.
Oh.
What's a blue chip? Any questions while we're waiting, Sophia?
No, actually, not yet. So, no. So, but I think it's such a specific and complicated issue. So, we did
Oh,
have, I remember that when we discussed, so someone was asking about preemption rights and rights issue. I don't
ooh,
know whether you're going to cover it because these are very,
no,
very
no.
specifics.
No, we're not, because
So,
that's really complicated.
mhm,
Okay, preemptive rights, in other words, right of first refusal.
mhm.
All of those things are way beyond our
Yeah. So
introduction.
it's very, very specific, and I was saying that now we're going to cover it because
Yes.
it's just. But we can just give some the hints that if you would like to expand further of our viewers, you can always go and read out more about these very, very specific things related to. Um, and Blue chip is very interesting because in Russian it's also translated almost the same, голубые фишки.
Really?
Yes, so blue, голубые, and chip we use it like fishki, which are special, things that you use when you play some games and you throw some small things and you will get them.
What do you
So,
do with the chips? So where do you get the chips?
well, so I cannot explain it in English. It's too complicated. At least for now, I'm sorry, I'm like losing my English tonight a
Oh,
little
it's
bit.
the end of the
It's the
semester.
end of the semester, yes, and end
I
of December, so
right.
it's a
I
mayhem.
almost responded to you in German just a second ago because I feel the same way. Okay. Well, you were actually really, oh, look, everybody knew. Indeed, it comes from casinos.
Hmm.
Because when you go to a casino, you don't play money, that would be too dangerous. So you buy chips
Yeah.
from the house. And in the American casinos, at least, or the British and American casinos, the blue chips are the most valuable.
And that's exactly what it means in Russian, fishka.
That's
And
right.
that's
That's
exactly
right.
what I couldn't explain. Yes, that's
You don't say
it.
jeton or
No, we say fishki, fishki.
fish.
So,
Okay, fish. Okay. Well, that's what I heard. I thought you said something like fish
no,
gear.
no, no,
And
no,
I'm like,
no,
what's it got to do with fishing?
no.
Okay, right. So these chips, these are called chips. Ah, and we have many, many proverbs and many, many sayings that are connected with chips. To toss in the chips means to give it up. Okay, get a chip off your shoulder, although that's a piece of wood, not a
Hmm.
gambling chip. Okay, and I often I take my father to the casinos every time I visit because he can't drive anymore and he loves to gamble. And I watch his pile of chips get smaller and smaller. So, well, the opposite of a blue chip is a penny stock. And you can see here a picture of an American penny. That's dear President Lincoln. Okay. Today, there are no more pennies. Probably, what did the ruble used to be divided into? I don't remember. Not groschen.
No. So we копейки or kopics.
Oh,
So,
kopecks, of
mhm,
course, of course. Oh, I'm thinking of Dostoevsky. Yes, this costs 7 kopecks.
mhm,
That's right.
yeah.
Exactly, kopecks. Well, I'm sure you don't use kopecks anymore either.
Well, actually, we used to have them, and sometimes we have even prices in them, but no one will give you copics. So even small
No,
rubles are not often given.
difficult,
So
right?
it's very difficult
Same,
to find
yeah.
1 ruble. Yeah, no copics anymore. We have rubles
No,
only.
same thing with pennies in the United States.
Hmm.
That's even a nickel, which is 5 cents, is hard to get. But what a penny stock is, it doesn't cost a penny. It's just from the historical when they really were might have been a penny, but is a legal term actually used by the stock authorities, and it means an over-the-counter stock. Now you think OTC. Wait, OTC? That's a medical term.
Yes, over the counter. Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
like a drugstore, you can buy medicine
Mhm.
over the counter. So it means that you don't have you don't need a recipe for them. So,
That's right. You don't need a prescription for it, and the
prescription,
same
yes.
thing.
So sorry,
Right.
prescription.
Same thing with penny stocks. You don't need a stockbroker. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need a stock exchange. You buy them sort of like in a store. Not really.
So like
It's still
on internet, sort of, yes.
yeah, on the
Mm-hmm.
internet, and they usually are there for two reasons. A, because they cost less than $5 a share, or the company is so small that they don't meet the minimum requirements to be, and this is the official listing, the official term, to be listed on the stock exchange. That's an exciting thing for a company when they get listed on the stock exchange. It means they've made it to the big boy land. Okay. Now, my mother used to play the penny stocks. She lost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And why? Because they're very volatile.
Mm-hmm.
They can change in a day or two. You think, oh, I got a great lead. You put in some money and you make money for about 2 weeks. And then suddenly it's all gone. But again, with penny stocks, most people only play. It's almost like gambling.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who have made millions of dollars through very careful, very scientific buying and selling of penny stocks. So you can't discount them, but they're sort of funny. Well, if you're like me and old and afraid of losing my money, what do you think is the term that means somebody? This is a general English, not legal English, not a stock market English. What's a term for a very timid or someone who is very adverse to risk, like me? What's a
And
term
yeah,
for
and
this? We got
Charles,
scaredy
can you
cat,
please
nebbish.
explain the word timid? I'm sure
Oh,
everyone
timid,
decided now
shy,
to,
Every
shy.
shy, because in other words,
Mm-hmm.
you're afraid to do anything. Like maybe when you're 5 years old and your mother says, "Would go ask that lady where the soap is," and she goes, "Oh, I don't want to. I'm afraid."
And we
That's
can
timid.
choose several words, yes?
Yep, you can choose up to
Aha.
five because that's how many there are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That's very interesting
Yeah.
that you ask this. That I know the word snowflake
Ah,
because this is how sometimes new generation is being described. When you read some articles about the kind of young people, and usually I remember I read it when you read some human resources, so an interview, some information about how to find the job and so on, and a lot of employers are unhappy because they say that the new generation are like snowflakes because they are sort of like very, very soft, like softies, or something like this. And it's very funny that they call them like this. At least this is what I have seen. I've
oh,
never
that's
seen the
exactly
word nebbish. I've never seen, well,
now nebbish.
yeah,
I would be it'd be very interesting if somebody knew what nebbish is. It's a
yeah,
Yiddish word that we use in English.
uh-huh.
Uh,
So,
and but you were right about snowflake because of course this came from originally. You know how you learn in school when you're very young that every snowflake is unique.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And so every young person in America, in the world, thinks they are
Special and
you
unique and will
special.
change the
They're all
world.
special.
Yes.
Well, so we have Scaredy Cat, Nebbish, Gutless Wonder, Snowflake, and Wuss. Let's
Uh-huh.
see what did you choose, Sophia?
I wrote actually snowflake and woos. I don't know why I chose woos, but I like
Oh,
this.
excellent.
And we have some people
Okay,
who chose nebbish and snowflake, and they wrote it
excellent.
in.
Well, they're all sort of right. Scaredy cat is the most common in sort of standard uh, generational
Mm-hmm.
English. Wuss, don't be such a wuss. That's sort of oh, I hate to be sexist. It's sort of a man's word. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be such a wuss.
Mm-hmm.
Means man up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Snowflake can be both, like you said, someone who thinks they're so special, or someone who was offended and afraid of doing anything. Gutless wonder, yep, somebody who is so afraid of life. Because remember, in English, when we say somebody has courage, we say they have
Guts.
guts. So if you're gutless, it means you have no courage whatsoever. And nebbish is, as I said, a Yiddish word brought in from actually from the immigrants from Russia in the beginning of the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century with Yiddish, and it simply means exactly that. A timid, sort of shy, usually a little nerdy person who is afraid of his own. Oh, that's the other expression we say. He's afraid of his own shadow. Okay.
We also
And
have it
scaredy
in
cat,
Russian.
big one.
Yeah, so we also have it in Russian.
Okay, so most people got it right. I like that, but everybody knew scaredy cat. I didn't expect people to know that, actually, Sophia. That's impressive. Okay, so what does that got to do? Well, what if you're not a tortoise or a hare? Like me, you're a scaredy cat. I am really old. I'm 70 years old right now. And I cannot afford to lose money on the stock market. But I still want to make money. So what can I do? I can invest in mutual funds. I don't buy a stock, I buy an index, basically. So I deposit money, I buy stocks in a company that owns a bunch of stocks all together, and they sort of blend in everything. And so their mutual fund is sort of like a small Dow Jones average, and it can go up and it can go down, just like the Dow Jones. And this way, you sort of balance out the possibilities of losing money or making money. You'll never make a lot of money unless you put your money in something called a growth mutual fund, which is where the company tries to choose the companies that will make the most amount of money most quickly. But of course, that also carries the most risk. And again, because I'm that kind of a person, all of my mutual funds are environmental funds and vegan funds. So I worry about that. Right. So mutual funds. This is a safe-ish way for people who don't want to spend a lot of time learning how to do the stock market. You put it in and somebody manages it for you. And of course, they charge you a little bit of money, or a lot of money, it depends.
And that was that's actually, Charles, was a question from one of our viewers. So
yes.
Do you do it yourself, or do you do it through a broker, or you just...
Through a broker. You actually do it through sort of a corporation broker. Okay. So you contact somebody and you say, hey, for example, I used to use Vanguard. Now I've switched to a company that gives me a little bit more money. And they interview you. And they say, okay, we have a bunch of different indices. What kind of investor are you? How old are you first? If you're 12 years old, like your son, you could go for a very high growth fund because you got plenty of time to make mistakes.
Oh my goodness, Lord, are you serious? So it depends on this. And do they interview you like via phone, or it's like video, or you go to an office? Like,
it depends. So for example, I would go to lunch with my broker once a year. We would meet, we'd go to lunch. He'd buy me lunch. That was very nice of him. And we'd talk. And I'd say, well, I'd tell him I'm happy, I'm not happy with the results, or I'd rather change to this kind of a thing. So many people, for example, at one point wanted all of their stocks not to be connected with tobacco companies. And so they had to divest from all of those companies. There's a whole lot of politics involved in mutual funds that you wouldn't think of. You would think it's just stocks. But of course, we go back to that. What is your money doing? And where is it coming from? So I'm a scaredy cat. I'm not a tortoise, and I'm not a hare. I'm afraid of risk. Well, unfortunately, it's not all champagnes and yachts. Remember the Wolf of Wall Street? He lost everything. Millions and millions he lost because he got greedy. He wanted more. His motto was probably more is never enough. And so he started doing illegal things and he got caught and had to go to jail. Of course, he's still getting that good. So now what can happen? Bubbles. A bubble. What does a bubble have? Oh, it's about champagne, I'm sure. No. What do you think? It's probably the same word in Russian.
Yeah, so the same.
Economic bubble.
So, well, the first association, well, the first thing that comes to the mind, it's 2008, the or dot-com also crisis.
Yes.
So, 19.
2008. I lost another 20% in 2008. This is why I'm working in Saudi Arabia.
Right now.
And I was very, very cautious. Again, I was a scaredy cat, and I still lost
And
a bunch
still
of money
lost,
that way.
yeah.
But you're right, 2008, the dot-com bubble. So a bubble is when everybody thinks it's never going to end, and of course it does. I don't know if this is happening in Russia today, but in the United States, we're in the middle of a housing bubble where house
I
prices
think
are
we're
out.
constantly in different bubbles, so I will not even go there.
Different bubbles, right? Exactly. It's really interesting to read all of the historical bubbles. There was the tulip bubble in the Netherlands, the South Sea Islands bubble, all sorts of fun different things when people thought it would never end. But it always does end. Well, in addition to bubbles, there's also, of course, pure and simple fraud. And that was the Wolf of Wall Street. He was simply fraudulently making money from his poor clients who trusted him. And of course, there's always bankruptcy. A certain former president of the United States has filed bankruptcy many times.
If I'm not mistaken, four.
I'm sorry?
If I'm not mistaken, four times. So,
Right, that's right. That's right. But again, it wasn't personal bankruptcy. Wasn't personal. That's different. That's different. Oh, he went, his lawyers went to court in Rolls Royces to say, we have no money, leaving, unfortunately, poor people in Atlantic City, for example, not getting paid for the work they did on somebody's casino, whose name I won't mention. Okay. So that's not fraud. That's pure and simple legal bankruptcy completely. And every time you buy stocks or bonds in the United States, there's always this little listing down at the bottom. There are risks associated with investing in securities. Loss of principal is possible. That always scares me. In other words, you might not make money. In fact, you might lose everything you did. And then my favorite one is a security or a firm's past investment performance is not a guarantee or predictor of future investments performance. Just because they made a lot of money in the past doesn't mean they're going to make it in the future. And here we have, this is a really lovely picture of a horrible man. Do you recognize this guy?
no, but it's me. I'm not
Does
into finances.
does anybody in the audience
Let's
recognize
ask.
this guy?
Yes.
This is a great photo. I stole it, of course, of a and he's reading a wonderful intellectual book. Obviously, he's in prison. Okay.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul. I love this. No, not yet. So, no, not yet. So,
Well, the title of this slide is Robbing Peter to Pay Paul. And this is an English expression. I bet you have the same thing in Russian. In other words, robbing Peter so that you can pay Paul. Okay. This is Bernie Madoff.
Oh, yes, of course.
who was the largest fraud guy in the world. A wonderful fraud guy. Okay. He was in a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme is when you say, hey, give me $10,000 and you're going to make a lot of money. So you get $10,000 from that person and you give that $10,000 to the people who gave you $10,000 last week. You're not really investing the money. You just keep paying people and pretending you're making money. And eventually you run out of money. This is when you run away to Brazil or Argentina with all of the money you've made. Well, this happened to Madoff. He did this for over 20 some years. And people should have followed the basic advice. If it's too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. He was actually a celebrity investment broker. People used to fight to give him money. He had lots of famous people. And for years and years, people made a lot of money. And more people gave him money. But eventually, he had to confess that he ran out of money. There was no more money to give everybody. He cheated so many thousands of people out of so much money, maybe about $65 billion, that he got 150 years in jail. That's not a short period of time.
No.
Okay. And he was forced to, he never paid this back, of course, but in restitution, in other words, making good what you did, he was supposed to pay $170 billion. Well, I got interested in finding out, and that turns out to be that many rubles.
Oh my goodness, Lord. We had we had the same person and the same, we call it pyramid, financial pyramid.
Pyramid scheme.
Oh, pyramid scheme, yes, not Ponzi. But it's kind of
so
understandable. So, and I still remember that when there were commercials all over the TV in 1990s. So I remember it so well. So.
Yeah, I helped a friend. I gave him a little bit of money. He was involved in it. And I said, this is probably a Ponzi scheme. And he was like, oh, no, I've met the people and they're so sincere.
The same.
So just invest a little bit of money with me and you will get your money doubled in just 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, here's a little bit of money, but it's a gift. I don't expect to see it again. Mm-hmm. And I never did. It was exactly that. They got a whole bunch of money and then they disappeared. And I'm sure they're having a beautiful time in some Caribbean island today with my money. Okay, so, well, this is the downside of the market. But what if you're still really interested in the market? You can play a game. Okay, Investopedia, one of the biggest sites on the internet, has a really nice virtual stock market. And you can just play by yourself and they will give you a bunch of fake money to invest. It doesn't cost a thing. It's completely free, free. And it's fun. It's fun to do. And you can try to make and sell money and practice and do everything and not worry about losing a penny. And I have done this twice and I went bankrupt both times. So this is why I'm a teacher and not a stockbroker. Well, after all of this, what word do you think will you think of now when you think of stock market? Sophia, do we have any questions?
No, not yet. And actually, we are perfectly now finishing up. It's because it's 1 minute till 9, so it's
I know. I was watching. I was thinking I was going to tell another story, but I thought, nope.
No, it's okay.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Oh my goodness! I'm thinking what to choose. I don't want to try because
you have to. It's forced choice. You can't leave. You can't leave the session until you choose.
Yes, 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 yes. So, and I remember I read some articles about some very smart, actually, mathematics who managed to create some very, very complicated mathematical systems, and actually they run some huge funds where people invest money and they're in charge of these funds, and with the help of these mathematical some systems, they actually try to play the stock market, and some of them are very, very effective. So, but there are many, many factors that are taken into account. It was very interesting to read, and I'm amazed at some people's brightness and gifts, with all of this, because if you understand how to do it, it's amazing. So when you make money out of money, you actually don't produce anything, and so on. So I understand the lure of all of it. So, but
you've used exactly two really important words: lure and play the market.
Yes,
it's a game. You play the market. And there are some people who do it for money, and there are some people who do it for almost like gambling.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's see what our friends say. What did you choose, Sophia?
Money. I was very straightforward.
Well, I'm very happy to see that most people choose opportunity.
Yes.
Because if done right, if done morally, the stock market can truly be a great opportunity.
Yes.
Just don't take advice from me. We'll ask your 12-year-old son.
Well, yes. So, but he's just giving money and investing them. So, and I don't
Sophia,
know.
it's been wonderful working with you.
Oh.
So much. Okay.
Oh.
And so, unfortunately, this is our last episode in this series that you've hosted so well.
Yes, thank you, Charles. I cannot even believe it. Yes, that
either.
we actually are finishing up this wonderful journey, and I think it is a journey. We would like to remind you that we discussed so many things, and Charles has so greatly and in so much detail spoke about language of employment, language of finances, of corporate finance, of personal finance, about banks, about stocks, so many things that have been new to us, and we are so grateful to you, Charles. So thank you so much. And of course, we're also very grateful to the Regional English Language Office of U.S. Embassies and Consulates that made this project possible, because thanks to them, we are here tonight, and we are extremely happy, especially in these turbulent times. And what we would like to say, I know that, so we are officially over with the webinar series, but there is always a but. So that in several days, you will have an opportunity to take the test. How it will be organized. So the test you will have 2 days to take the test. So at around 10 o'clock in the morning on the 24th of December, Christmas, there will be a link will appear on our website, plus all of you who are registered for the webinar series will receive an email with this link. We will also put it in all our social media, and we will send it on the 25th to you as well. And you will go through this link, and you will get into an online questionnaire. Online questionnaire will be based on this webinar series. There will be around 25 questions. And they will be based on the webinar series, on the lectures, and on the presentations by Charles, which are all available on the website. So you can take this test once, but there is no time limit except for 2 days. So you can answer one question, then you can leave it, and then you can go take a look at some videos because they are all available. Then you can get back to it. But after you have finished, after you have submitted the online test, then there is no opportunity to change the answers. Okay, so you will not get, after you have submitted, after you press the button submit, you will not get immediately the correct answers. So you will not know them. And only after the midnight of the 25th of December, so we will press the button, I will do it myself, and you will receive the answers. You will be able to see your answers. And you will receive this email with the answers. We'll send it over to you, and you will see how many correct answers you have. And we will write to you which will be the borderline. If you're over the borderline, then it means that within 2 weeks, we need time, you will receive a certificate, a free certificate. Okay? So once again, you will have 2 days. So the deadline will be the midnight, spanning the 25th to 26th December. 12 o'clock, midnight. So after that, you won't be able to submit your answers. And that's all. So, and then you will see whether you were correct or not. But we give you this option to have 2 days to answer the questions, okay? So absolutely not a problem. Okay, so it will be like a Christmas present, or we'll call it a New Year present if we speak about Russia. Yes, because in Russia, New Year is more important. Yes, Novy God, absolutely correct.
Novy God.
Yes.
Well, so who gives presents in Russia? Isn't it Father Frost?
Yes, we have Ded Moroz, who is Father Frost. Yes.
Yes.
So, and he has a granddaughter, so Snegurочка. So actually, yes, we have a lady that accompanies him. It's not his wife; it's a granddaughter. So we don't have the deers.
The reindeer or the
reindeer,
elves.
yes, the elves. We have a granddaughter and different animals, so that go around. Yes. So, okay, so we have a lot of thank you, and we hope, we don't know whether it will be possible or not. We have already submitted a proposal for another series. If it will be successful and we'll get approval in spring, we might organize another series. And we're all going to send you a note. And once again, Charles, thank you so much for being with us. Because you have been a wonder of this seminar and the star, and we are so happy that we got the chance to be with you and to get acquainted with such a wonderful, knowledgeable, and sweetest person we've ever seen. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure to work with you. I have learned so much from you and from the audience. So I should pay to take this.
We're thankful. We are so grateful.
No, thank you. I might even take the test. Who knows? I'll see if I pass it.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Sophia, for doing the test. For all of you listening, Sophia created the test. And so she spent all that time. It's really spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for now, we have kind of 2 days of quiet time, because we need some time. I need some time to make up the test, because it will be also based on the last webinar series. Right. And also we need the time to make up the vocabulary, because we all would like also to remember that together with the webinars, which are free, and they will be free to watch even after the our series has ended. The presentation are all uploaded, and you have links to the translation of the vocabulary on Quizlet. So basically, you have all the information. So, and it will not be very difficult test. So we are not cruel. So we try to be nice.
That's not. Well, thank you, Sophia. And if you'd like to get in touch with me to talk about everything, I'll let Sophia send emails to Sophia, and then she can let me know.
Yes, and I really encourage everyone. So if you would like to, please send us your comments or any of the words that you would like to say to Charles to our email, which is info@legalenglishcenter.com, and we will forward it to him, because it's very nice to hear the feedback, and I think you all have a lot to say to him.
I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank
you, Sophia.
Yes.
Thank you all very much, and thank you all for participating during this busy time.
Thank you. We love you, and so we will rewatch the webinars, and we'll meet you again and again and again. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.